Welcome to No Question About That. I'm Ed, today with Dominic. How's it going, Dominic?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Ed. How are you?
Doing all right, yeah. I'd have been better if United had actually won last night. But there you go. What can you do? This is United.
Yeah, I'm on a little bit of a low after that. I was on such a high when it was 2-1, and yeah, it was a sucker punch, wasn't it? And yeah, just classic narrative of latter day United, really striking back.
It's all about the narrative, isn't it? And there's nothing but narrative with United. All right, there's a story to tell about Mason Mount, and that's our topic for the day. I was looking the data up, Dominic. He has made just 36 appearances for United and only 16 starts. £55 million.
That is mad, considering the money and the hype and everything that was surrounding that signing. Yeah, it's crazy that it's come to this. Really, I had such high hopes for it as a signing, and I know there were naysayers at the time, but I wasn't one. It's a massive shame considering, everything that United thought that signing would be, the final piece in the puzzle in the midfield, with supposedly it was going to be Casemiro sitting and Bruno and Mount as sort of dual eights, trying to maybe replicate a bit of what Pep had done at City and be a little bit progressive in a midfield. It's never, we've never seen the experiment even given more than a few games, have we? Because of injuries, and every time Mount seems like he's on the way back, he gets a setback. It's just like the most frustrating cycle, to the point where people are willing to consign him to the dustbin, aren't they? Really, I mean, probably get into this a bit further, but I'm very reluctant to do that, considering the money and the ability of the player.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is 1,227 minutes across all competitions in 2 years. Like, it's like 14 full games or something. It's no player, no matter how good you are, can provide value when you're never available. And I'm not saying it's his fault, but every conceivable injury that could go wrong has gone wrong for me. He went to the hairdresser and pulled his hamstring. It's like that kind of thing. It's absolutely mad, and as a result, it looks like really bad value for money. And I guess what we're looking for, the test we're looking for, is he feels like an Amorim style player, doesn't he? Just instinctively, and Amorim has just been extremely effusive in his praise. And he feels like more relevant now than before. When he joined, it's not that I kind of doubted his qualities as an overall package, because coaches love him, right? It's that thing they were saying on the Football Cliches pod a few weeks back. They were saying coaches love him and fans are like, yeah, but what does he do? And I kind of felt a little bit like that about him, where I'm like, yeah, I sort of like the technical qualities. I can see that he's a really good trigger for the press and never going to doubt his energy or his commitment or his engine or any of that. And he makes some neat passes, but does he create anything? He's an attacking player, and does he score often enough? And you look at the data, and no, he doesn't create much. And in his best ever season for Chelsea, creative wise, he created half the number of chances that Bruno does on an average season. So you look at that and go, well, he doesn't create, he doesn't really score. Kind of, what is he, and where's he going to fit in this? And the conclusion I came to, that he was like Bruno light, right? But we've never even seen what it could be really with him and Bruno. And then I was like, okay, well, if him and Bruno in Ten Hag's system, does it mean that Mount's going to play as a number 8 alongside a more defensive player? I mean, it's good theory, and it feels like he's got the technical skills to do that, but we've basically never seen it at Chelsea, Derby, or with England or United. And so I was like, bit confused. But Amorim seems to love him. Must be doing something great in training, because he can't stop talking about him.
He would be one of those players that would look good in training, I think, though. He seems to have the right attitude. Every time he's come off the bench, has he come off the bench twice or 3 times since his return? 3 times,
Yeah.
Each time he's come on, I think he's added something.
Yeah.
His energy, his pressing, his ability off the ball. And that's something that United don't have.
Yeah.
United are lacking in willing runners off the ball, people willing to do doggy work. It's basic football, but it is really necessary. And Amorim is clearly asking it of this squad. And if he believes a Mount can offer it, then I think it is only a matter of time before we see him starting more games. To be honest, I was talking to some mates about this, and they seem to think that Mount should be a squad player, a sub option, until now at the end of the season, just work his way back. But obviously given the injuries, that would make sense. Don't want to overload him with minutes, but I almost think the opposite. I almost think let's put this guy in. Let's use the run from now until the end of the season, especially in the league, a chance to get him some minutes, get him some 70, 80, 90-minute performances, see what he can offer in this system. It's got to be on maybe the right or left of the front three with Bruno as the deeper player. I think that's how it has to work. But I can't see them playing as the 2 10s because then you just don't have any pace. You don't have any sort of explosive. Yeah, you don't have anyone running beyond the back line, basically, especially if we've got Xerxes playing as the 9, which we should have given Rasmus Højlund's form. So where does it all end up? It ends up with probably Mount. Yeah, it's still hard for him to break in. He just hasn't ever shown enough to break in regularly. Now, there's got to be a chance for him. That's what I'm saying.
No, I kind of agree with that. I'd like to see him play as much as possible because there's a decision to be made anyway about his future, both in the team or maybe outside. Because although he spent most of his last 2 years injured, he is English and still quite young, and he would command a big fee. United might not get the full 55 million, but they might get close to it because that was supposedly a discount because he only had 1 year left on his contract anyway. So, high quality England player, Champions League experience, title winning experience, all of that kind of stuff, English, adds up to a big package typically. So he'd be one to look at if you were thinking about, well, where can we make some money if he doesn't fit? And if he doesn't fit is like the point you were making there, I think it's a really good one. I don't see where Bruno, Xerxes and Mount all fit into the same team. They feel like the same player to me. It's just that Bruno's much better than the other two. And because you've got problems with Xerxes at number 9. He's great in the build-up, technical player. I think he's improved in terms of his quality of his performances over time, and we've seen more of that. But he starts to look like a false 9 then. And we saw it the other day when he started ahead of Rasmus Højlund after the international break, and Amorim's there on the touchline screaming at him to hold the position rather than come deep, because he's only half the Harry Kane. He's the half of the Harry Kane that comes deep and plays the passes around, but he's not the Harry Kane that gets in the box and is a brilliant finisher. Good header last night. And so that's the problem, right? I don't like him at number 9. I like him in one of those 10s, but you can't play him and Bruno there because of lack of pace, or him and Mount because of lack of pace, or Mount and Bruno there because of the lack of pace. And so it's only in those games where Amorim's prepared to drop Bruno a bit deeper that you could possibly see 1 more. But 2 more, you have the lack of pace problem. And unless you have a rapid player alongside them or a ball carrier alongside them, and Alejandro Garnacho is so out of form at the moment. But
he's having to play every single game.
He's playing every single game. He's going to get injured. He's going to burn out. He looks tired, and that's contributing to his lack of form. And so the balance doesn't feel right with all of them. So I'd be really tempted, if I was Amorim looking at this, to go, one of them can go if I need to free up money. And Mount and Xerxes will still command money. Like Xerxes back to Italy, I'm sure a top club would be interested. And Mount, he would be like Spurs, 45, 50 million. They'd do that. So it's just a kind of the logical conclusion of like 3 into 1 doesn't fit through all of that kind of thinking that might happen.
I know what you're saying, but Mount, I would be getting rid of Xerxes before Mount, to be honest. And I know
he's more versatile, Mount.
More versatile. Just a better system player for this system that we're trying to play. A lot of people like Xerxes as one of the 10s. I hate him as one of the 10s because he just doesn't work. He
doesn't
anywhere near enough defensive work. Those games when Højlund and Xerxes were both playing, it was that Spurs game when Bruno was basically having to play 2 positions. Centre mid and right wing at the same time, because Xerxes and Højlund, one of them was supposed to come back. Mostly it was Xerxes, and he wasn't doing it. Yeah. So I think Mount has got a much higher ceiling in the system. He's still 25. It's just those little touches that he shows sometimes. We think there is definitely a player there. We have seen it Chelsea in England, there's a player, and I just think who better than Amarin, and what better than this system to bring it out? It just takes a run of games.
United have two really big problems in the build-up and in the press. I mean, you saw against Lyon last night how uncoordinated the press was. They were going individually, and Lyon just played around them all the time. It was so easy. And that is definitely a problem. Garnacho has actually been one of the better ones there. Right? He's learned. Bruno is headless chicken a little bit with the pressing. Lots of energy. Doesn't always seem to think where everyone else is. And Xerxes doesn't do it at all. As you said, Mount, everyone loves. All the coaches love him for that because he does the right things and everyone can follow him, basically. And, so Southgate used to talk about this. Good trigger for the press, right? And Southgate loved him until he didn't, for whatever reason.
Well, he had to stop picking because when he went to United, basically, which is what every England manager seems to do when a player goes to United, loses form, and they go, oh, we can't pick this guy anymore. Rashford's straight back in the England squad and he goes to Villa, isn't he? Obviously,
that's true. Yeah, that's true. We are cursed, and everyone knows it. The other problem United have is in the build-up where the wing backs aren't high enough, and so it allows the opposition fullbacks to push up really high, and there's this kind of illusion of space behind them. So United go long all the time, and Xerxes doesn't run into the channels to make that work, right? So Mount might do, right? He can cover a lot of ground. I mean, the actual solution to this is get a right wing back, and United can press much higher and dominate the game, as Amarin keeps talking about, which we just never do. And so that's another problem. I'm not saying Mount can fix that problem, but he might be a solution just because he's got the coverage in there. I mean, I still have this feeling of like, not sure exactly, but I know that he does. The package is more all round than just Xerxes. If we're saying we can't really fit both of them in the side and Bruno's the starter, whatever the game, then Mount seems to have more of an all round package, where Xerxes really only ball to feet, play a nice pass. There's not much else there. As good as that ball to feet, play a nice pass has been, I feel like it's an illusion of a full package. Like there's some nice moments and occasional goal. As we saw last night, he can finish when he gets in the right spot.
But sometimes there's a bit more with Xerxes. I do. Yeah. I quite like his strength, his sort of. He has got the stomach for the fight, although he's not particularly good presser and doesn't do too much off the ball. He does seem to quite like the argy-bargy. And even Mount was getting involved in that against Lyon as well, which I quite enjoyed. And there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with Mount's attitude, with his, whether he wants to be at United or not. He's always seemed like it's been a dream move for him. And, he just never had the opportunity to exhibit any talent. Even has he only scored one goal? I think he's only scored one goal, hasn't he? It was against Brentford in that game where United got absolutely annihilated by Brentford.
That sounds about right, yeah.
And then conceded even later than Mount's winner, and I think it ended 1-1 that game.
Yeah, just the one goal.
One of the nadirs under Ten Hag that game, and Mount's supposed sort of moment got overshadowed by how dreadful United were. So
2 assists, 1 goal. Yeah. It's dreadful numbers, really, like on goal creation, shot creation, assists, goals, playing minutes, starts, like all of it's dreadful. And I guess the really worrying thing is it wasn't like one big injury, right? It's just been a series of muscle injuries. And what was the last one? Was that hamstring? I can't remember now. Kept him out for
a concussion for a long while.
He had a concussion as well. Everyone got very mad because he went for a haircut during that, when he got a giant cut on his face. I didn't quite understand that. United fans are weird sometimes. Like hated him because he got a haircut. That's why I keep saying, stay off the social media, kids. It's not good for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. The thing, this experiment that we won't see anymore is Mount in a deeper position. I don't think Amarin likes that.
No one does.
No, well, it was Ten Hag who sort of floated the idea of him playing maybe as an 8, but like you say, it hasn't really been tried any time in Mount's career. So yeah, Amarin will play a sitting 6 and a slightly more advanced sort of 6.5 as his 2 in there. and obviously the attacking has to come from the wing backs, and then the two tens. But United have no tens that really fit the system and the profile that Amorim wants. Ahmad is the closest to it, and he's obviously injured at the moment. He's the one who can play in those half spaces in the inside channels. And Mount is the closest behind Ahmad, but like we've been saying, lacks the pace, lacks the finishing, and lacks the end product. So maybe he isn't such a great fit after all.
I actually think he doesn't get in quite the right positions for the finishing rather than being a bad finisher. So, like if you said compare him to another Chelsea player, Frank Lampard, who always got into the right positions and was a good finisher, despite being a mediocre passer and having not much pace at all.
All his goals came off deflections anyway. Ed.
Oh, that is very true. But you don't shoot, you don't score, and he did a lot of shooting. So I think that's part of the problem with Mount. I mean, look, if we were to think about what it looks like next season, I mean, we'd love to not have to solve the goalkeeper problem, but we might have to at some point. So, goalkeeper, I would spend money on a goalkeeper for a centre-back now, even if Lindelof leaves, given the quality of centre-backs and Lenny Yoro's progress and Luke Shaw's return to fitness. I feel like we've got a lot there. Right wing back is going to help with the build-up and possession and the attacking phase of play. And then another central midfielder because Eriksen goes, and maybe that's the ball carrying 6.5 type, Frankie de Jong style player that I think Amorim would like. And then that allows you to go, okay, Bruno, Mount, Ahmad, Xerxes, Garnacho's your options at 10. I think he'd like another one, but that's probably only if Garnacho is sold or one of Mount and Xerxes is sold, and then a real number 9. And you can see, even if you have doubts about the overall package share and its ability to do really, really well, you can see a path to, top 4, top 5 with that kind of spending and squad development. And Mount, CCR topic of the day, could well play a part in that. Could well. I mean, you can see where Amorim would like him in that if we manage to get that kind of recruitment right. But it might be as a rotation option.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that I think the top 3 players that United have been linked with at the minute are Liam Delap, battering ram of a number 9 centre forward type, Mateus Cunha, who will probably fit the bill for one of the number 10 roles. I think would be absolutely perfect for it. In fact, off the ball and on the ball, just a brilliant fit. And if United can get that done, that would be a sort of marquee addition, I think, in the summer. And then Ederson, the Atalanta midfielder, who seems like a proper 6 or a 6.5, whichever one of those two positions you want.
You can see the profile there, can't you?
Yeah, it sounds like those are the 3 profiles. But then you don't hear anything about the wing back, which is slightly worrying because I'm not keen on seeing Diogo Dalot for another season starting every single game.
Fernandes, the Benfica wing back. I mean, obviously Quendo's going to Chelsea. I imagine that was a thought. I mean, there is also the
option. Very young anyway, though. So
17, but he's the right-footed, left-sided attacker that got shifted into wing back and did really well there, much in the way that Ahmad did for a few games. But you need a ball carrier up front, right? So, and Ahmad really fits the bill. He gets the ball and he drives at players and he commits players, and that helps create the overloads in other parts of the pitch. We don't have that at the moment because as much as Garnacho carries the ball, he doesn't commit players at all. And so it's all into feet. But yeah, Cunha and Bueno are the ones with a lot of speculation around them. Ederson, obviously attracting a lot of attention. It may well be that we have to qualify for the Champions League to get all of these deals done because Cunha, Ederson and a striker is £150 million committed right there. And that's not even thinking about a wing back or a goalkeeper. And that may be more budget than we have unless we manage to do some big outgoings. And there's doubts about all of those since it seems like Chelsea might be pulling out the Sancho deal and Villa would have to probably qualify for the Champions League by winning the Champions League, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. I mean, I suppose there's still a chance they make 5th.
There's a long way to go, and United are sort of left in a position hoping that these clubs achieve their goals, so they have the finances to take some of these players off our hands, and it's a pretty dire situation to be in, isn't it? But such is the such as the situation United have left themselves in because of bad business in the past. You know,
so much bad business, as we saw some of it in Lyon. Yeah, I mean, Marcus Rashford's been doing all right at Villa. I've seen quite a few of his performances. He was pretty dreadful against Paris Saint-Germain, but they couldn't get in the ball at all, and so I think that's partly on the team, partly on him, because basically he was just chasing shadows all night. But he's been better in some of the other games when Villa have had more of the ball. So they may well trigger the option, but again, it may be down to the finances, because they had to sell David Luiz last summer to make PSR. There's even talk that they might pull a Chelsea and sell their own women's team to themselves. I mean, they're extremely rich, Villa's owners, but they don't have the revenue base to support their ambitions right at the moment. And so, yeah, it's a big question mark over Marcus Rashford. And all these will impact. Yeah, it seems very... I mean, I don't imagine the club would want Sancho back, like, under any circumstances. They'll just find a deal that they can do. Rashford, there would have to be some kind of rapprochement, and Amorim would have to decide that he fits in his system, and neither of those things feel likely. And so they're going to have to do some very creative deal making if Villa don't exercise that option.
Yeah, it's crazy that you could have a situation where Anthony, Rashford and Sancho all return to the club and then have to be sold, because I can't really see any of them staying for the reasons that you just said, especially Rashford. Well, all of them, yeah. Amorim's not going to want any of them. So you've got those three. You've got potentially Højlund, who could be shipped off. Seems like he's entering the last chance saloon to me. And then you've got whispers about maybe Garnacho and whispers about maybe Xerxes. So that's 6 potential forwards who could depart the club, or across those front three positions. So we go back to our point about Mason Mount. He's way down the list, and given his situation, given he's not played, he hasn't had much of a chance. I just think he's going to stay and be part of the system. United can't sell absolutely everybody, otherwise it'd be me and you up front, Ed.
Well, give it a go.
I mean, for a few quid as well.
I'm not sure my pace is that good these days, but I've got a bit of an engine on me. I've always had good stamina, so my technical skills not very good, honestly. I was goalkeeper when I was a kid, so I'm not that good on the ball.
Yeah, and technical skills is always how
I wouldn't have made it in modern football. I was never that good with my feet either, so there you go. Yes, I mean, it is. I mean, at one stage we did have like 8 forward options, and it looked like there's lots of competition, even if there were big question marks. Now there looks like lots and lots of question marks. Nobody that really fits any of these profiles that Amorim might want. Yeah. Fortunately, of all the loanees, Anthony is doing well at Betis. Didn't score last night in the Europa League, but had a really good game by all accounts again, and they love him there. They're trying to work out how they could afford him. Because it would have to be 32 million for United to be net even on the PSR, right? So otherwise there's an impairment. And obviously you can pay for the impairment with wages going out, but you probably want to replace him so there'd be wages coming in. So it's like, could Betis afford 30 million? Probably not, given they're given that really only 3 clubs make any broadcast money in Spain, and everyone else is running, and they're a local side and the second team in their city.
I think Anthony's performances have been a little bit overstated, haven't they?
Yeah.
For Betis.
He's racking up loads of good numbers, but if you look at his data, right, it's defensive numbers, right? So if you pop into who scored and go look at the average number, it's going to be really high. He scored, I don't know, 3 or 4 goals and about the same assists in like 17, 18 games. Yeah, it's Anthony numbers, but they seem to love him because of his work rate and his ethic as well, I think. And he probably suits that kind of mid-ranked club, frankly, with the kind of numbers and the work he puts in. Can they afford him?
There was never a problem with his work rate, was there? It was always okay. It was just, he just produced absolutely zilch. And, but it's probably good for United that these players, such as Anthony and Rashford, are getting a bit of a better press than maybe their performances deserve, because it will aid the sales, it will aid the PR, and maybe put a few more quid in the bank for United to spend. It's kind of like reverse engineering now, isn't it? Finding a positive spin for United's business to get better in the future, because honestly,
it matters.
Yeah, it is important.
The story does matter in football. I mean, although everyone has access to great data and even more detailed data than the public stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the Opta Pro stuff, how many data points they have about players now. There's like, especially around the intangibles, like quality of passing and from what positions and where, and you start to break that down. And I know the Stats Bomb crew are working on like the expected pass type data, right? So quality of passing and from where and why, and like anyway, brilliant analysis on all these players, but the stories still matter because they pique club's interest, and you want to be in the public eye.
And honestly, I think some of that stuff leaves people feeling a little cold, and your stats can't always tell the whole story. I mean, there's multiple examples of that and quotes saying that from people who are deeply embedded in the football data analytics community. So I don't want to see, it's like this Gary Neville sort of robotics comment that he was saying last weekend, isn't it? You don't really want to see football completely flooded with it. And again, bringing it back to Mason Mount, he's a good example. The stats like him, off the ball stats, running stats, and all that. But sometimes the eye test is what matters. I know that's not what United are going to base their recruitment on. I'm not naive enough to think that they're going to pluck some guy out of League Two because he looks good on the eye, like a Lee Trundle type. But there is something to be said about blending the two, isn't there? It does.
Yeah, for sure.
Makes my head spin, to be honest. Even the thought of it.
Yeah, well, I know United are trying to go down the data route. They're some way behind, say, Brighton, who have their own data analytics company, Tony Bloom created, who retains most of the good data for themselves and then sells some of it to other clubs. I mean, it's a great model if you can do it. So Jim talks about it an awful lot. You can go off and recruit a bunch of PhDs and build a data science unit. I mean, it's not like they didn't have one. It's just that the head of United's data unit left and they didn't replace him. And so they've got some way to go. I'm sure they're looking at that because they know they have to be, the club at least now knows they have to be much, much smarter about recruitment. And it will be down to Wilcox and Christian Vivell mostly and their teams. And then obviously Barada on the negotiation side. I don't think Big Sir Jim will be flying into Lisbon when United try and bid for a wing back, or flying to Ecuador to negotiate for an Ecuadorian third division midfielder or something like that, or whatever.
You've got to hope he doesn't. You've got to hope he stays out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe he can do an oil deal when he's there as well. Yeah. But yes, United are going to be more creative. I wonder, it'll be interesting. I mean, they've been picking up a lot of young players through that model at the moment. Whether we find a surprise or two this summer and suddenly someone comes in that hasn't been, there hasn't been loads of paper speculation about, and perhaps isn't as well known at all. And they do a Dorgu style 20-25 million for a player that we're just not expecting. And in one of these key positions that we really, really need. And that might be a sign that they've got this a bit about right. I do wonder, like, if United were much more data centric when Mason Mount came up, what would they think? Because you're right, he really only looks good when you look at the data, and it's throughout his entire career on the defensive side of things. He hits very high percentiles in the FBref rankings there, and he looks like he just contributes nothing attacking wise if you look at it. And that's throughout his career. But clearly that is not what coaches think. Coaches
maybe you're right. Maybe he should be a full-back. Stick him at right back or something.
Oh dear! Can you imagine? I'm not sure. But hey, I always thought they should try and Anthony at left wing back, but when he was asked to do that for 5 minutes, he cried like a baby and stomped his feet.
That made me so angry. I always thought Fred at left back should have been a goer actually, but again, happened for maybe 10 minutes throughout the whole of his United career.
Indeed. All right. Well, it's a lot of moving parts there. I guess we're on the balance of probabilities. Mason Mount probably stays, although I would imagine there is a market for him if they decided otherwise. But Amorim seems to really like him, and so seems like he would be reluctant to let him go if Mount can stay fit. And it's a big test, isn't it? United have 4 more games max in the Europa League and 7 or 8 in the 7, I think it is, in the Premier League. So not a lot of football for him to prove himself. A couple of international games come in June. Then United are off on United are off on postseason friendlies before the internationals. That's mad. Internationals, then they'll get a break for 3 weeks. Then we get back to training early July, and then United have a 75 continent tour of the whole planet for their preseason program, and we're hoping Matt can survive all of that.
Let's roll on next season for him, for us, for everyone connected with United.
Indeed. All right, thank you very much, everybody. You can catch the Lost Tapes on podcasts wherever you get them. That's our narrative history series I've been doing with Wayne. This week's one is on Roy Keane, and there's a surprise narrator. Thanks, everyone.